What came first, the chicken or the egg? It is an age-old question, many deep dives and discussions on it, and if you stick with me, I will give you my answer to this age-old question after we flow through our interesting discussion of chicken. So nice to have you with me here today. I hope you are doing well. Want this to be a light and fun session as much as possible. That's why I got Frank here, which is my rubber chicken, is actually my kid's rubber chicken. And I put in the link to the description in this video just to set things off on a fun note. Some links to Rubber Chicken singing Bohemian Rhapsody. So if you are feeling like you need a little boost or a smile today, you can see the Rubber Chicken singing that song. So funny. That's how I came across this. My kids wanted to try to play the song on the Rubber Chicken. This chicken has been through so much, and its little clucker is broken now. It can't do the song anymore. It just makes this. I'll hold this way far away, and you'll hear the sound it makes now. It's kind of terrifying. Okay, so a fun session, hopefully. Usually, I do not talk about specific foods, and that is intentional. Maybe I'm changing it. We did the beautiful session the other day on the squash. So much insight from that. Today, talking about chicken. Not so much, just a little bit from the perspective of like the health actually of eating chicken, but trying to broaden our perspective really on society, I would say. Fasting's such a deep practice, it's got a surface. We can go in on the surface, maybe that's all we ever need. We can open up some fasting space, help to bring our eating into balance, help to gain control of hunger by training the body. When should we be hungry? Fasting can be so helpful in so many ways. Fasting like a lens, both to help us see our eating, but then also, as we've seen, to dive deeper into the emotional space of how do we use food, what our relationship with food is. And then I say we can take it even to the next level. Fasting giving us a space, opening up a reflective space more broadly then to see, okay, fasting and openness, the nothing that is something, giving us a pattern and a lens to look more broadly at society. And so I hope through this session that we can take those sorts of concepts and help them to flow back around and use them as a grounding space, as a motivational space, as something that isn't just an abstract discussion about society or interesting facts, but something that really helps us personally to take steps powerfully forward in health. That is what we are about. All right, so do you like chicken? If you do, you are in good company. I was doing some research on chicken yesterday when I put this together. 98% of Americans eating chicken on at least a monthly basis. And then 75% is weekly. So those are kind of the chicken stats. The average American is consuming 110 pounds of chicken in the average year. So maybe I should have, tried to get a visual of what that would look like. Huge amount of chicken consumed, America's most popular protein. And so, full disclosure, starting out, I'm going to bring some balance to chicken. We're going to talk about the consumption of chicken, and full disclosure, I like chicken and I eat chicken. And chicken has many potential health benefits for a weight loss path, for sure. And when I say chicken, I especially mean chicken like this. Let us there. Oh, look at this beautiful chick, okay? You picture this beautiful, fresh chick out in the country. And so when we think of chicken and we think of the chicken that we are eating, we have an idyllic scene of chicken in our mind. Chicken is running free out in the country, eating bugs. It is in its natural space, fresh air, clean water. And this is the type of chicken. When I'm eating chicken, this is what I try to eat. So I have gone to great lengths to find the best chicken that you can get in Wisconsin. And I have a little contract with a farmer who is raising free range chickens out in the country. I have gone and visited the chickens, and I've visited his giant dog that is protecting the chickens from the coyotes as they're just living out in the woods. And this can be healthy. Okay, let's think about a chicken. Okay, no carbs, plenty of protein, supports the musculature. It's satisfying, tasty, it fills you up. People say, okay, you eat some delicious chicken meal. You say, can that help you to be satisfied so you're not eating some other thing? Absolutely. When I'm giving people counseling about trying to eat, we've got everything in balance. We got a fasting space, we got a food space. When we're not fasting, then we're eating. I usually say try to find a protein and a veggie. And so a big place people go in a dinner, okay? A chicken and a veggie. And then that helps people so much. You get in a space of eating a protein with a veggie on some fashion, and you can lose a lot of weight. It can be very good. It can help you normalize blood sugar and so many things. So don't misconstrue anything that I am saying in this talk as to say, okay, Dr. Z is eating some chicken. Try to do it as thoughtfully as possible. I tell people you should do it, and it can help you on a weight loss path. Okay, so here's what we see as chicken, though, and then here is like the reality of chicken in the modern world, which is that the scale of chicken is just unimaginable. Basically, the data that we'll get into, there's estimated over 33 billion chickens on the planet today. This is why I say chicken planet, because chicken is the most popular, and we have so many people chicken raised in these huge industrial operations. That the scale is just massive. And because chickens are industrially produced, this is how you can go to Costco or wherever and get chicken still. Even with food prices, blowing up, you can get chicken for $3, $4 a pound if they come, through a process like this, which is not exactly the way we like to think about, the idyllic chicken. And is it the healthiest way to do it? And is it the nicest sort of thing? People have different perspectives on it. I am of the perspective that this is not the ideal way to source and make a chicken. So those are the two sides of, okay, chicken and where do you get it? And then, of course, the balance is that to get the most natural, healthy chicken, there is an investment. We talk about building wealth, building health, these parallels that we want to store up health for ourselves. And you say, fasting, the type of thing you can't buy, but you talk about an investment to purchase, like the best chicken, there would be an investment. You gotta pay for that, no doubt. Okay, so chicken can be very good. We've flown through that space. And then I want to start giving you just some bigger perspective. See, we're not really in this session, though. I just wanted to start with that. This session is not really about that. So we kind of laid the groundwork, and I want to widen the perspective of this. So what we see even as chickens, I showed you some factory farm chickens, even the chickens out in the country today, so many of them, when we look at a little broader, remember the talk that we did, the hidden history of obesity, as we got back into more deep history. We're so focused because we only live maybe 100 years if we're lucky. We think, 100 years ago is just like so long, but then really it's the blink of an eye in the broader sweep of history. So we go back 100 years. The chickens that existed 100 years ago weren't even like these chickens. They have been selectively bred to be bigger and bigger and bigger. The broiler chicken that we eat today wasn't, the article I read said it was invented. Okay, it was bred into existence in the 1920s. And so the chickens more than doubled in size through these selective breeding and raising processes. And so remember the graph that we had, which way does it go for you? That we were seeing that this rise of problems with weight has its roots all the way back in the Industrial Revolution. And so we don't just see it, in this very modern moment like we're typically shown, that there's a whole sloping curve that goes all the way back hundreds of years, and that we can see that this process has been slowly evolving over time. And we can see that the exact same graph we could make mirrors the experience of the chicken. Okay, and so this is really wild to consider. One of the big patterns that I've been trying to show on this channel is that, okay, a weight problem, a metabolic problem, we say a dysfunction. And then we say, okay, is the body dysfunctional? And a big thing that I have been trying to communicate is that in large measure, the body is not broken, but there is dysfunction, but that dysfunction exists outside of the body. That society in large measure is dysfunctional, and we can see that certainly in certain areas better than others. But even in other areas where we don't see it typically, because we're relatively short-lived creatures, we just take so much of what we are seeing for granted as just normal, including like a chicken. We look, oh, there's a chicken, it's normal. But then we can see chicken is going through a process like our society is going through a process of its actual weight increasing abnormally out of alignment with any kind of natural cycle. So do you see that we're creating a mirror where we're seeing the body in large measure is actually mirroring society, at least in a correlation in some very interesting ways. Very interesting ways. Chicken even now isn't what chicken was. So as we start to approach this, I want to bring into our thinking and discussion another thread, which is the thread of birds in general. So chicken, of course, is a bird, and I want to do some thinking about songbirds in particular. Here we go. Here's some beautiful birds for us. Some of the videos I got have their beautiful little songs with them. Wild birds, of which songbirds, of course, some of the most beautiful. At the same time, we have had a radical expansion of chicken. We have had basically a decimation of every other type of bird on this planet. And this is how I'm really going to start launching us into a broader look at what is happening in the world for our contemplation. In North America, it's estimated that in 1800 there were 9 billion songbirds, and today the estimate is 6 billion. We've lost approximately a third of songbirds over this same time as we're looking at this correlation, and that has especially been accelerating since 1970. Over the same period of time, number of chickens that we said has increased to over 33 billion. So we start to see that out of all birds that exist, most of the birds that exist now are actually poultry, is actually chicken. So chicken is coming to dominate. This is the big theme of our discussion, chicken planet. Wild birds being almost completely displaced, we're going to see, by domestic poultry stocks. So two things are happening at the same time. The geometric increase in the amount of chicken and the destruction of the native wild population. So two things are happening at the same time that are leading the ratio of poultry to wild birds to be completely blowing out, losing the non-chickens and replacing it with chickens. And so one thing that very much matters to me, I did the discussion we had yesterday. Everything matters. I do believe it. Do you believe it? Do you think that everything matters? Do you think a songbird matters in the broader scope of life to exist on this planet? That creatures like this, should they exist? Do they have a home here? And what does it mean even to be a human being in a society that is destroying it? So this is something that I really want to open up a space to think about, because this is the very real risk. Now, songbirds probably not going to disappear tomorrow, or even next year. But already birds that were staple birds here in North America, like the passenger pigeon, have gone extinct. And so I want to give us the example of the passenger pigeon. I can't give you a video of it, okay, because they're all dead. The last passenger pigeon went extinct in 1914. Here is a picture, which is just an AI recreation of what the beautiful passenger pigeon looked like. It was the most abundant bird in North America as of 1700. I think the stat I have was that as of 1700, there were estimated 4 billion passenger pigeons in North America. And they were all killed off and died because they were hunted for sport and people ate so many of them, and then all of their habitats were destroyed. And they went from being the most numerous bird, and over the course of 1 or 2 human lifetimes, they were completely wiped out. And so we have a precedent for the type of thing that can happen, and that actually is happening when we zoom out. It actually is happening to many other types of birds. And of course, huge programs, the beautiful bald eagle almost wiped out, and then people so thoughtful and are helping it. And so this is showing the potential of thoughtful action. And this is where I want to bring us into a space of thoughtful action across every domain in our life. We're here on a health and weight loss channel. We're exploring ideas that actually everything matters. And, we have had an experience, especially here in America, of radical individualism, that we're somehow separate from everything else that is happening. But we start to look actually objectively as we possibly can at what is actually happening, and it should give us some pause to say, like, whoa, as we have seen the rise of industrial culture, we're seeing what's happening physically to our bodies and to society, that the further away we get from natural cycles, the more dishealth is arising. And that the further that humanity is pulling away from these natural cycles, the more the natural cycles are suffering and dying. To me, health and healing is so much deeper than we have given appreciation for. And so I want to help us. This is what I'm trying to do. Help us move in a direction to see we do not want this pattern to repeat itself. Beautiful passenger pigeon is a creature, a creation. It had a home here, and I believe it should be here. A human being is the type of thing that should be integrated in supporting and creating health and flourishing, across all of life. And I believe that this sort of mindset would actually be the type of thing that could actually bring health and healing both to our physical selves and to society more broadly. It's the type of mindset that we should have. There's a Gandhi quote that is just popping into my mind. You can tell a lot about society from the way it treats its animals. And, its animals, we, even in that, we think a lot about, like, oh, human being is a thing. We treat other creatures just as things that we own, that they're only here for us to exploit and take advantage of and monetize. And I personally have the view, or I'm at least trying to have the view, that we need to start seeing creatures as valuable in their own right, not in any ability to monetize them. I saw a lecture once where a gentleman was asking the question, what is an armadillo for? That's what he said. It was Nate Hagens. The gentleman was Nate Hagens. He said, what is an armadillo for? And, people in the audience, like someone raise their hand and say is like for a purse, you chop it up and make the skin of it into a purse. And he's like, these things aren't for anything. They exist just like people exist, just like a river exists. What is a river for? A river is a river. This sort of mindset is where I try to take us on the channel between doing and being, that we are existing in a society that is almost completely about doing without respect for being. And I think when we don't have that mindset, that's how it's gotten us to the point that we can drive entire species to extinction and not even notice it, which is kind of terrifying, I think. We should not have that perspective. Here is a broader perspective that has brought meaning and value to my life that I've been exploring. I should get a video. I'll do another one where I have a zoom out where we're seeing like Earth from orbiting around the sun. Have you ever seen something like that? And then it's kind of zooming out and you see the whole solar system. And this is like trying to give us a bigger and grander view of what is happening here. I was discussing this. This is where I had even the thought to do this kind of talk today. Yesterday we were talking. Picture the incredible opportunity that we have here to be alive in this moment right now. How we take it for granted. We don't appreciate it. We have entire shallow philosophical systems of nihilism that just say everything's meaningless. There's no purpose to it. Yet out of the entire stretch of the universe, it's just like this single point is like an atomic particle out of the whole universe that we are seated on right here on Earth. The only known place in the entire universe where we could even live for any second of time. Such a miracle to be there. You see how precious it is. And that we should not take it for granted in any fashion. And then within this tiny speck of dust, what Carl Sagan described as the pale blue dot. Have you seen that? When they sent that, I think it was a Voyager probe, got out to the edge of the solar system, is taking a picture back. You see Earth as just this little pale blue dot, they described it, suspended in a sunbeam, this tiny ray from the sun hitting the Earth. And that's everything is on this dot. If you ever listen to that, listen to Carl Sagan read his Pale Blue Dot little monologue. Just very powerful. Every person who've ever existed, every war that's ever been fought by one little pixel to control the other little pixel across this thing, is just showing the so much of the folly of our conflict and the importance of taking care of this home that we have here. Developing a deep and profound respect for the complexity of it. I see the Earth as a cosmic art gallery. We have been talking in this whole series, the last 2 months, I've been giving us this vision of health as a creative process, that we are creating a health experience for ourselves. And I think this is the way to think about it. We can use, that helps us to use every part of our being in it, every bit of our, right brain, our creativity. Weight loss gets jammed into such a left brain thing that it's a calculation, that it's just numbers. A right brain perspective on weight loss, helping us to see this is a creative process. It's a human experience. And that process should be about integrating and bringing health both to ourselves and community, society. Everything that is happening to me to here matters and is integrated. each of the beings, this is what I'm saying here, a chicken and a bird, any type of bird, an incredible creation. It's an incredible piece of artwork. That's what I'm saying about passenger pigeon. You don't walk into an art gallery. Some artist has spent a master work, a whole lifetime creating a masterwork. You don't destroy it. And so then we look from this perspective, chicken planet, what is happening, natural birds all being replaced with chickens so that we consume in this cycle because this is what we think. And we say, this is not feeling right to me. This is not feeling right. Got that book, Myth of Normal. I say, you know what? We should just take a second or a session on the show and just like look at some of this. Look at some of this. World is an art gallery. We are part of that. We are on display, here. Humanity, we say this is the pinnacle, the divine artwork, here. But so much else, we got to like take a step back and say, look at these other things. We got to care for it. Just like we got to care for ourselves. How much of us we're not, as a society, not saying us personally, but in general, human beings, we aren't really caring for even ourselves in the way that we wish we would, right? And so bringing more care, more compassion is going to help, ourselves as much as anything. Here's the stat. I ran this, a bunch of this stuff through a large language model. And it gave me this little graph just to show it. Biomass shift, 1700s to the present. Before the Industrial Revolution, domestic poultry was in the backyard, right? It was just people with their chickens. We still got that going on. The vast majority of the bird weight on Earth was held by massive wild populations like the passenger pigeon and large waterfowl. Here is showing you the chart. 1700 poultry is like 2%, wild birds over 95%. By 1970, we're like 50-50 on the planet. Half chicken, half everything else. Every other eagle and blue jay and toucan and penguin is over here. And now look where we are today, 2025. 71% of the weight of all birds on this planet, poultry, and mainly chicken. It's also turkeys and ducks, any human poultry population, but it's almost all chicken. And then down to 29% wild biomass. Isn't that just crazy to see? Does that give you some pause? Does it give you a thought to reflect on what is happening and what is our broader role here as human beings in this situation? That's what it does to me. And so to bring it back, then, we want to circle this back around. Like you said, we're going to circle back around to say, okay, things are out of balance. That's what I've been saying in general with weight, right? The body is out of balance. We want to try to bring it back into balance. Yesterday, the talk, it isn't about becoming nihilistic or pessimistic in any fashion, but just to honestly look at a situation and say, hey, if things are out of balance, how do we align our actions? How do we change our thinking so that we act in ways to help to bring things back into balance? Ironically, in a talk like this, like I started, say maybe a chicken is a thing that can help you do it. A protein focus, help bring weight back into balance, can absolutely work. I'm not telling you not to do it, and I'm certainly not trying to guilt trip anybody about it. But I am trying to bring some serious, thoughtful reflection into this space because what we eat matters. How we interact in this space matters. Everything matters. This is the truth as far as I can see it. One experience that brings some thought to me on this is just my early experience in Boy Scouts. I did a lot of camping. I went to a lot of wilderness areas. And one of the big mottos that we had, especially as we go to a wilderness area, like some very special place, kind of roped off, say no condo building here. Try to protect this little place, is tread lightly. We would always say tread lightly. Means like you pack out your garbage, no littering, just treating everything with respect. I think so much about how we say, okay, we have these tiny areas, national park or a state park or something. We say, okay, we'll treat these areas with respect. We tread lightly in these areas. But like pretty much the entire rest of the planet, like, anything goes. This entire planet is a wilderness area. If you start to think about it, the entire planet, every single place has its own ecosystem, its own life, its own natural environment. Human being has become the type of thing that just dominates it, and we don't have any thought in our society of integrating with it and trying to really protect it in a thoughtful or broader fashion than we are. And so when I think about that tread lightly, to me, that is the type of thing that would guide our actions. What does it mean to tread lightly in a modern industrial society where we are basically like, there's so much food, not everybody can eat chickens like I'm showing. Like we got these beautiful chickens in the natural thing. There's not enough chickens to do it. We got to have factories if we're going to have people eating stuff like this. Like we've built an entire civilization around the concepts that we have here. And that's why we are so far away from any type of balance. We say, what does it actually look like? And I'll just tell you, I don't necessarily have the answers to it. I don't. I'm just talking about it. I'm just saying, here's kind of what I see as kind of crazy. Definitely some things to think about. When I am practicing fasting, to me, that is one small space where I say I'm not consuming anything in this space. Where I look at the world, I see these gigantic cycles of consumerism and industrial production and consumption. And I say, this is not natural. This is not normal. And I see that this is not even healthy. It's not in the big picture. This entire industrial system and process is not cranking out healthy people. Right? This is not a system that was designed to create health, wellness, or flourishing in any kind. The entire mindset flowing out of the Industrial Revolution was just about making some amount of people very wealthy. And it has certainly done that, right? But this entire process is not creating health and flourishing for any other thing in the planet other than a human being, we say. Every other living creature on the planet suffering at the expense of this system. And even then we see the human being is suffering, right? It's not even working. Because we have shifted in society, we don't see health as the primary focus of everything that we're doing. We don't appreciate that wellness is what really matters. Wealth is what has taken the place. This is why that more, we have this never-ending quest for more, and we do not have a concept in our societal zeitgeist of enough. And that has driven the creation, the expansion, the growth that has created this entire chicken planet, like I am saying. This is why I think fasting is a path that can give us a serious space to reflect on this, to say what is really going on here and what do I really need and what is actually enough for me. And when we open up that space, we come to see that enough is actually quite a bit less than we expected. That you can actually flow through a space with nothing. Nothing is enough. Whoa, like we're getting pretty small at that point. If nothing can be enough for a large period of time, then it creates the perspective that we need to get outside of this whole system and try to see it for what it is. And I'm not trying to say that I have like some great knowledge of it. I'm just looking at it. I'm just sharing. Fasting giving us a space to reflect and say, is this really what I want to be connected to? What really are the priorities in my life that are going to bring health and flourishing to my life so that I have the most energy, that my body is mirroring to the least extent possible this system that is like a runaway train that seemingly can't be stopped. Say, I'm going to stop it in my life first. We say, I want to disconnect a bit from this whole system. I see this is how fasting can become an empowering space that actually I have everything I need inside my body for large periods of time, actually. And I can use this energy. And that actual process brings health, space to the body so that the body can stop all the work it has to do to be continually processing the energy that is coming through and trying to keep out the toxic stuff and all this stuff, process it, give the whole system a break. Precious space, like we said in that squash, that it's got that hard exterior. It can be hard to get into a fasting space, but protecting something so valuable, a healing space for the body so that health can flourish, that our energy and all the good things that we want in health can rise like the phoenix, right? That's what we want. Health, good health is not far away. And good health is a way of being. This is why I love calling it this creative process. We're trying to create health, but creating health in the way that a gardener creates a garden, right? Gardener doesn't really create a garden. Gardener provides the space so that the garden can, create itself, because this is what life does. Life flourishes on this planet when you give it the space to do it and the conditions to do it. In large measure, in metabolic health, fasting is not the only thing that matters, right? But fasting is one ingredient, just like the garden. It needs water, it needs sun, it needs soil, it needs the compost, it needs all these things, right? This is like our total health and flourishing needs a lot of things. It needs the space. That's why fasting is one component, a critical component that has been missed and underappreciated in our society. But it needs lots of other things. It needs the water. It needs the sunlight, like literally. And it needs healthy food. That's the nutrients that we need. See, we are a living being, just like any being in a garden. We want to see what is the way that we grow our health in the same way that we grow a garden in a natural process, not an industrial system that is just focused on consumption and profits, but things of true value that lead to health and flourishing in a truly grounded and powerful way. This type of discussion to me is taking us into that space to deeply consider the importance, the meaning of it, so that we can get to the very core of everything, of health. And that through our process of health, starting with ourself first, you say, like, whatever work you have to do, maybe that means eating some chicken so it helps you eat less processed foods and be satisfied and strong, and that's totally fine. But then in that space, then to see, okay, look at what is happening. How do we just increase our thoughtfulness and awareness? And can our health and our decisions then flow out and help? The gentleman I was referencing before, Nate Hagens, has a concept of the superorganism. He envisions human beings as like cells of the human family, that the human family is this gigantic organism and that we're each one little cell of it. I think it's a very interesting way to think about it. This sort of cellular structure, you say, well, this human system is, we have seen in this discussion, not always taking us in the most thoughtful direction. Unlike, or maybe, I don't know, who knows how this world really works, but in this cellular structure of a superorganism, we each have the opportunity here in our little space. We can control our little cell. We can't control the gigantic scope of industrial humanity, but we can control our thinking and our thoughtfulness. And if there is a pathway forward that looks different than the path that we're currently on, in which all people and all beautiful creatures on this planet can survive and flourish together, it would start by bringing health to ourselves and helping it to flow out to everything else. And so I want that to be a big theme on this channel. I want health and good energy and everything positive flowing out in every direction. I do think that type of mindset is the thing that can really help to bring us in a positive direction. Some people say, I've had people send me wonderful emails chatting about this stuff, you're always welcome to send me an email. Go simplefasting.com. I got the contact button there. Say, Dr. Z, I see everything you're saying about fasting is very interesting, and I even do it and it helps, but then I still struggle with motivation to do it. And so this type of thinking that I'm doing here is like another layer to try to bring another layer to it, of to say, hey, here is an open space is even bigger than ourselves. Anytime we can take an issue that we are struggling and dealing with it, connect it truthfully to something that is bigger than ourselves, then this can help us flow into that space, give us motivation and help to do it. One big way I've done that, and I've described, that when we open up a fasting space, when we are experiencing hunger in our physical body voluntarily, we're coming to understand it so that we can overcome it, come to see it as not so bad, even positive. Very, very powerful mindset to develop, very strong and resilient. But we get into that space, we see it can help us to build our compassion for our fellow human beings who are struggling. Here in Dane County, where I live, over 20% of families food insecure. And so someone struggling in a fasting space, I have suggested, if it feels good to you, never forced, of course. If you can save a lot of money by fasting, if you are saying, man, I was going to eat $5 worth of food at breakfast, I'm going to fast through that, donate that to somebody who is less fortunate. Food pantry gets so much money when they can buy in bulk, help so many families. I got videos on the channel about that. So that's a way to flow in that space. Here's a totally another direction to flow, where we're getting out of our own head and seeing, okay, our food choices matter. Fasting space matters. Can we open up that space? Even if it's symbolic, when we do one little fasting, I was going to say, is it even symbolic? But no, it's real. It's just real. It's just, see, we can get overwhelmed by the bigness of the situation. And we can feel so small and tiny. Say, what difference does it make if I do a fasting, if I do a thing in one day? Does it even matter? So small. Okay. Take a deep breath. Something like that helps us to see our place, our place in the grand scope of the planet and the things, like we are these tiny little creatures. This is why it is enough for us to focus on today only. This is how we stay grounded in the present moment. These are the timeless pieces of advice and wisdom that have served people. Like, you look through the great thinkers of history, where do they shake out at the end of the day? So many things come down. Live in the present moment. Take a deep breath, center ourselves, don't be overwhelmed, take care of ourselves, and deal with the things we can control and not be overwhelmed with everything we can't. But it's actually through that process that we actually develop the power and the ability to actually change things. We can change things for ourselves, change ourselves first. Starts with changing our thinking about not being afraid to just ask difficult questions, look at reality. That's what I'm trying to help us do here. And I'm completely open to anyone's perspective on it. Someone says, hey, I don't like your chicken planet perspective. That's fine. Let's have a discussion about it. It's just ideas, I think in our society, we have so connected, and I think social media has done this, or supercharged it at least. We've just completely connected ideas to people, and we just see the idea as the person. And so when we don't agree or we don't like the idea, then we don't like the person. Whereas really, we should just see people as people who happen to have ideas. I have held vastly different ideas, completely contradictory on many topics over my life, and it changes. We grow and change. We change perspectives. We learn. And so I have this, I read somewhere once, I have to think what it was, but it was set in the 1960s. I don't know if this was a real thing or if they were just giving it as an analogy, but there was these two guys are sitting in a bar in 1960. One of them is a communist and one of them is a libertarian. They're like the furthest apart politically you could possibly be. and then they sit around and they have a drink, and then they argue about all their stuff, but then they're just good friends, and then they have a good time, and then their value that they see in each other is not um, based on some political ideology. And so, like, we need to take a dose of that in our society, both, politically, of course, but just in health. Health becomes something controversial. And we say, oh, let's take a step back. Let's bring healing into that sort of space where we can, like, discuss big ideas. Uh, to me, feels like such a good thing to do. Okay, so what is the solution to all this? Like I said, I don't know, but I can tell you, I told you, I teased at the beginning. What came first? Okay, the chicken or the egg? The age-old question. I'll tell you my answer, at least today, the egg. Okay, the egg came first. Before this entire process that I've been describing, Chicken Planet, where billions of chickens displacing every native other type of bird, okay? Before all of that, people just held chickens and used them to collect eggs, and people ate eggs. It was actually very rare. This is a modern occurrence. What we are seeing, the mass consumption of chicken is a modern occurrence. It is not at all normal in the standard, in the experience of almost all human beings who have ever lived up until really the last 50 years, and then especially the last 100 years. This is a novel way of being in the world. I say is not really working that well. And the first step would be to say, okay, much more efficient, much more cost effective to let the chicken do its work and eat some eggs. Now, maybe you don't like eggs. You don't have to do it. I have kind of a bit of an egg allergy. I really like eggs. I don't really eat them because I don't feel super well when I do it. But I will tell you, an egg just as healthy as eating a chicken. So like I said, to frame this at the beginning, chicken, no carbs, good protein, healthy fats, just like an egg. And so if we were even to shift from some chicken into more egg, okay, to get our protein like people used to do, we might be forced back to do it. With the rising food prices, we're going to have to go back to the most efficient ways of doing things. I think it's very likely that we're going to see like this thing. Most things in life, actually, human beings think linearly. Most things in life happen in a cycle. We're probably in a multi-century chicken cycle as I look at it. And it's very likely over a longer time frame that we can appreciate that we are going to see something like that in this probably, I think fair to say, crazy chicken experiment. I don't think that it's going to sustain over the centuries, but what do I know about it? But what I would say is on the down slope of a chicken cycle like that, people are going to be eating a lot more eggs. And that's something to take the first step. And of course, we can get protein from many other sources. Doesn't have to be animal sources. We can build out things using so many other things like the legumes and all this sort of stuff. Our entire focus on protein, that'd probably be another thing. We should probably do a whole protein focus talk in general, apart from chicken. But the egg came first as far as what society has used and focused on just mass consumption of the egg layers. Not the way it's always been, not the way it has to be, probably not the most cost-effective, and I say probably not the most healthy way to do it. We could tread a lot more lightly together, and to me that probably is the way when we think, how do we tread lightly on this planet? How do we reduce our impact? Is the steps in the process that would help us more fully integrate into this place in a sustainable fashion so we can all flourish? That to me feels like the type of mindset that would help us to be as healthy as possible. So open up that fasting space. Maybe this is the thought if you're up for it, when you're in some fasting space in the coming days and months. Just use that mindset. Hey, look at this. This is a beautiful space. Say, just like Dr. Z, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what this means. I don't know what industrial society is means. We were all put here. I didn't choose to be born in the middle of a gigantic industrial system. We're all here. What do we do? I don't even know. I really don't. Fasting space, though, saying, hey, for this moment, I'm carving this out. I'm finding peace and contentment here in this space. Can that help you to find meaning and value in this moment as we flow forward together in health? Really beautiful to share this space with you. This was a different sort of talk today, and it all kind of flowed into my mind yesterday as I put this together. As always, I am very open to discussion and feedback. If you have any feedback of any kind, I encourage you to put it in the comments. Love to have a thoughtful discussion about it. Like I said, you can send me an email if you don't feel like putting it on a comment. Go simplefasting.com. Send me an email. Value you so much. I hope you have an incredible, fantastic day of health. I will be back with you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.